All right, good morning, everybody. Hopefully you're having a good time at Ignite here. We'll kind of go through today some kind of architecting, really talking about how to manage modern management and how to architect your modern management of Windows 10 and Office 365 ProPlus as a deployment. So I'll kind of do a quick intro. My name is Brian Kennedy. I've been working on ProPlus deployments with various different customers over the last 2 years. Run a Lighthouse program last year, focused really on about 50 accounts, deploying roughly 12 million seats of ProPlus over the last 2 years, and really documenting out our best practices, trying to get more to a guided tour for customers so they can go out, look up the best practices, and actually kind of follow those so that they fit within your environment. And then up here with me is Daniel, and I'll let him kind of introduce himself.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Daniel Schmidt. I'm an architect with Microsoft, and I'm currently working on all things Windows Modern Management, Modern IT, Intune Management, and those kind of topics.
Thank you. So we'll kind of move over to the agenda. So what we're going to cover today, we've got various different topics. We're not going to go super deep on the topics. I will say that we've got a booth down at the Expo Center. We've got folks that are Office ProPlus experts. We've got Windows 10 experts. We've also got EMS within our booth. So if you want to come down and find us, we can, and we don't answer your questions in here. Happy to take your questions down there. We'll both be down there most of the day today. We've also got colleagues that'll be down there. So again, we've got quite a number of different topics. So we'll kind of touch on those 200 level-ish. But really we wanted to go through, what is the common feedback we're getting? We're getting lots of feedback from customers, trying to get as much information as you're deploying Office, Windows. Sorry there. So we'll get to that customer feedback of how do we represent that? How are we translating that back to you? We'll talk about what is a modern desktop management. So as we're moving into the cloud, what does that mean? What's the difference between what we call classic management and now what we're considering on that modern management. And then we're going to go through, spend some time really walking through our deployment scenarios. So what are the common scenarios? We focused on 2 of them to give a good flavor of here's how customers are managing these in their environments. And then go through some of the tools that are available to help you around app compatibility and what are some of the security features. So that's what we're going to go ahead and talk about today. Just a quick show of hands. It's a big room. So 2 things. One, if you do have a question, we'll take questions throughout periodically. If you have a question that's on a slide that's imperative to that kind of topic, please go ahead and go up to the mic. We'll probably have about 5, maybe 10 minutes for questions at the end as well. But with this size of a room, if you can do the mic, because I don't think I'd be able to hear if you had a question back there. And that way we can kind of hear the question. Everybody can kind of move forward. So with that, I'll kind of go to our customer scenarios here, customer feedback. I'll kind of turn over to Daniel here to walk through these.
Thank you, Brian. So we listen to your feedback and we really appreciate it, and we always try to gather the feedback and purpose it into our products in a meaningful way. So there are common areas where we always hear customers advise us to invest into certain areas. So the first area that we hear is that maintenance is very costly. Right? So common tasks like password resets, deploying new computers, resetting existing computers. These are tasks where the IT department needs to be involved nowadays in most companies. And we get the feedback that should change. Right? So IT departments should focus on more important tasks than these commodity tasks. Another area that we get quite a lot of feedback in is that the employee experience is not really modern. So one of the items that we hear is phones are so much easier. Why? Right? So when it comes to deploying new phones, the experience is way more streamlined. The user can handle it him or herself. Why is it different for the Windows desktop? Another area is that mobile employees have a disadvantage. So employees that are mostly traveling or like kind of mobile, so think about your sales force or consulting people, they have devices and they're using services that were meant for an on-premise world. So think about password changes every 90 days, for instance. So another thing is managing antivirus client if you don't have a management server, managing the device as a whole if you don't have management capabilities that is reachable from the internet. Another area that we get a lot of feedback in is version upgrades are complex. So typically, version upgrades requires dedicated projects in order to be successful. So what that means is every other year, you deploy a new Windows, you deploy a new Office. And with all of that, there are like a lot of changes for the users. So user training and user adoption is always in big chunks delivered. And the feedback that we get is we just want to have smaller changes over time rather than big changes in chunks. The last point where we see the most feedback items is our endpoint security was built, meant, and designed for a world that is not mobile first, cloud first. So think about the castle that companies build with, you can VPN into the castle, and then you're good to go. But nowadays, with accessing resources that are in the cloud, as well as users traveling out of the castle, a lot of the traditional methods of securing information, securing devices, apps, and data, they don't apply anymore. So how do we move forward? With the modern desktop management. What is that? So we have the Microsoft 365 powered device. So what is the Microsoft 365 powered device? It is basically 4 pillars just because we love pillars at Microsoft. So we want to transform the IT pro experience as well as the user experience. One of the very important topics is that security isn't built in. Security is not built on top, right? So security is built in through the whole stack of managing the operating system, managing the updates, and managing the applications. What we want to do is we want to combine the simplicity of mobile devices and the feature richness of the traditional Windows desktop to combine to a very streamlined and an awesome experience, both for the IT pro as well as for the end user. In terms of always up to date, we want to transform the typical project release cycle that implements new changes to a process. So what that means is streamlining the process to always consume the latest and greatest, but at your own pace and at your own configuration. The Microsoft 365 powered device also enables insights into data that companies haven't looked into before. So typically we have insights into compliance data, readiness data, as well as operations data. So all of that enables you as IT pros to get a better understanding about problems that your users have, and even proactively identify them. So when it comes to the similarities between the classic and the modern models, the main message that we want to land here is you can still use all your tools that you're familiar with, that you've implemented in your environments to manage Windows and Office, right? So you can still use System Center Configuration Manager, you can still use Microsoft Intune, right? So all of these tools, they still exist and they're still capable of managing all these capabilities. But we're moving forward, so there are new things coming. And these new things sometimes are only applicable to a management philosophy that we identify as modern.
Yeah, so if we look at Office and Windows as we're moving forward into this servicing model, we'll touch on what that means and how some of these capabilities are the same. But I think really the key message is, and what I hear from customers is, we're not ready to go to a full modern management. We're not ready to go, oh, we're going to go to the cloud only. We're going to have our clients update to the cloud. So really the key takeaway on this slide is, if you look at how we're doing distribution and how we're doing update management, install management, et cetera, you can still leverage the same tools as you can see here. Really what we end up with is, now what are the changes? The changes that are coming and the capabilities that you can use if you still have your classic, you can still leverage a lot of the modern stuff as well as you move up to the Win 10 stack and as you move up into the Office Pro or 365 ProPlus. You get a lot of the online reporting, a lot of the key metrics and a lot of the data that's coming in. We're collecting a lot of telemetry to help IT admins understand their environment so that we can present you guys with options around, what's app compatibility, how can I actually be more proactive instead of having kind of that red button approach where I'm going to stop, I'm going to test everything, I'm going to move forward when everything's solid. What we're trying to do is give you the telemetry data, the reporting dashboards and things so that you can actually see those. So as we walk through the various different deployment scenarios, we'll touch on here's the modern kind of cloud managed scenario first, then we'll move into some of the kind of keys of how can I do the modern clients using my capabilities today, and then walk through how do I manage those two in a moving environment. So we're seeing people move early on, losing my classic, and then moving into a more modern state for certain subsets of their users. So I'll kind of touch on the recommended deployment scenarios. We break these down into two. We actually, from a best practices perspective, we have a third option as well, which is kind of the middle point. But for today's focus, we really want to talk about the cloud managed scenario. And when you think about a cloud managed scenario, think about it more from managing things from a cloud, a modern technology way, allowing updates to roll out. And we'll touch on those scenarios and kind of walk through briefly how can I do that in an environment, where are the best places to take those. And then you can see on the other side of it is really that enterprise managed. These titles will probably morph over time, but the concepts will be the same. So think of the cloud managed as this is a modern way, this is what Microsoft is doing from a servicing perspective to move forward, but I also can still use my typical management tools. Configuration Manager, Intune will always continue to get more features out. So that's where you can start managing, mixing and matching those two to meet the different kind of user bases in your environment. So we'll kind of move over to the recommended deployment scenarios. So I'll touch on the Office ones first, and then I'll turn over to Daniel. But when we look at these, it's really around when we say cloud managed, it's managing users, updates coming from the cloud, allowing our users to actually download from our content management system. Quick question, how many folks in this room, just a show of hands, are currently deploying or are on ProPlus 26 or Office 365 ProPlus? So a significant number, probably a little bit over half. How about the Windows 10? How many folks in this room are on Windows 10? So about the same. So that's good, and what we're doing from an engineering perspective, we're trying to make it less about managing, giving you the options. I don't have to manage all the packaging. I don't have to manage everything quite as much. I don't have to have the on-premises infrastructure. I can actually get this distribution from the cloud, and we'll walk at the end of this of here's what customers are doing or what some of the trends we're seeing as they're transitioning from their classic management into this modern management. Enterprise deployment or enterprise managed deployment, what we're talking about is using my configuration manager, using other third-party software distribution tools, managing these in an on-premises way because it fits within your current IT structure and your current IT processes. What we don't want to do is say, yeah, stop using your IT processes you today, define this all, then move forward. What we're trying to do is blend that so that we can actually do deployments using your current processes while you're trying to address and move forward into a modern managed environment. It takes time for organizations to kind of move. You don't move the whole workload into a cloud. You can do these hybrid scenarios. And even in a deployment scenario, when we're talking about how do I get a servicing client down, we still want to have that kind of hybrid mode so that people can use the tools that they're used to, get up into the modern desktop clients, still have the richness of that experience, but use my processes that I've been using for 10, 15 years that are very mature, and as we start defining these. So that's what we're talking about as we go cloud managed and enterprise managed. They're not mutually exclusive. I think that's the key takeaway. There are scenarios such as your mobile workforce, Salesforce, folks that are, the road warriors. I'm in a hotel a lot of times. How do I update my Office client when I'm in a hotel? Well, the CDNs allow that. Some of the internet capabilities do as well. So I'll turn over to Daniel to kind of talk through the Windows side, and we'll kind of go back and forth between Office and Windows and what are the similarities around those deployment methods.
Thanks, Brian. So Windows introduced this new feature, Windows Autopilot, in Windows 17.03. Who from you has heard from Windows Autopilot? That's not enough. So we need to change that. So Windows Autopilot is a feature or a capability that enables provisioning machines without having an IT admin ever to touch it, right? So the philosophy of the concept is you import computer information like you did in the past to Configuration Manager, but instead of to put it into Configuration Manager, you put it in the Autopilot, which is the front end of the Windows Store for Business. So the cool thing that enables that is you can ship the device directly to the user. The user takes the device out of the box, just puts in his email address and his password, and the device gets provisioned, right? So this is one of the feedback items that we get from, especially the maintenance is very costly. So traditionally, you put an image on a device or you ask your OEM to pre-provision a computer. So all of that involves a lot of cost, or it involves you doing something. So we want to prevent those tasks, and we want to prevent those costs getting spent, right? So the Windows Autopilot is an experience for the user that is very closely aligned to what you get nowadays if you buy a mobile phone, you put it out of the box, and then you just enroll it yourself. So the experience should kind of align, and we want to benefit from the simplicity. After the device has been enrolled into Autopilot, typically what we do is provide device management capabilities from an MDM like Microsoft Intune. So as Brian pointed out, the typical information worker or the mobile worker, they benefit from these scenarios because they're not tied to an on-premises infrastructure for management, right? So they can roam freely across the world and getting the same kind of management without being tied to a specific location. What this also enables is, from a security standpoint, sometimes customers provision machines and have agents on them that report status back, like the firewall status or antivirus status or the encryption status like BitLocker. But with these machines traveling and roaming, you only get information about those machines if a user actually uses VPN. So typically some users are kind of using software that are mostly in the cloud, like Dynamics 365 or Office 365. So the need in the future for a user actually to use VPN is getting less and less. But the management capabilities from a security perspective, they may require a user to use VPN, so you are sure that the device is still protected, that device still exists. So there's currently a gap, and our expectation is that that gap will grow over the future. So that's the cloud managed story. From an enterprise managed story, I just can repeat what Brian said over here. The new functionalities that we introduce in Windows and Office will still enable you to use your existing typical on-premise management tools like System Center Configuration Manager. We expand System Center Configuration Manager, for instance, to put a foot in the cloud with features like the Cloud Management Gateway, which enables you to also talk to your clients that are roaming and that are typically just internet connected and not corporate network connected. In terms of how we deploy, we can either do a classic deployment, so think about imaging, think about a thin image, a golden image, whatever you prefer. And on top of that, we can also introduce the new feature, or we can also use the new feature that was introduced here at Ignite. It's called co-management. So who from you has heard of co-management? There's a couple of you. So if I would ask you like two things is check out Autopilot and check out co-management, because we get a lot of feedback that using the information worker and the mobile worker for managing devices from the cloud is a very streamlined and a very easy process, but not all of the capabilities that are on premises and System Center Configuration Manager are available in Intune. And that's on purpose, because we don't want to make it as complex and as, we don't want to make it as complex. So what co-management allows you to do is basically using a machine that is talking to Intune as well as talking to the System Center Configuration Manager. And what you can do is over time move workloads from one authority to another. So think about software update management, right? Software update management may be one of the processes where you want to transition from System Center Configuration Manager back to Intune, right? So, and over time, you may do that with additional workloads as well. So with software distribution, with compliance reporting, so all of those capabilities. So over time, the footprint that you have in Configuration Manager gets less and less and less and less, right? The important thing is you can do it at your pace. You don't need to rush. You don't need to hurry. So definitely check out the co-management.
So what does this all mean? So what we've tried to do is, there's a lot more information. We've been working with our TechNet team. If you go out to TechNet, we released on Friday what we call the deployment posters. So what we're trying to do is show what does it look like with Windows, what does it look like with Office, and then if you go through it, it has steps of how do I assess my environment, how do I plan for my environment. So what I wanted to do here is really talk about, when we're talking cloud managed, it's a new concept. So when I've gone in and talked to customers, even customers that, oh, we've deployed 10% or 15% of our devices into ProPlus, what ends up happening is we start talking about what are you doing, how are you doing it, oh, well, you're having challenges in this way. Let's change the way that you're thinking about it. So what we wanted to do is really simplify down from an image perspective, what does it really mean when I say I'm going to manage from the internet or I'm going to manage from the cloud? A lot of people, I'll be honest, a lot of IT admins' initial thought when they go in on ProPlus is there's no way we're ever going to be able to work in a cloud managed scenario. We have security concerns. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't want to have our users, we need more control from our users. So really what we wanted to do is show, here's the simple steps. There's activities that go on in each one of these. But if we really think about what does it mean to be a cloud deployment or cloud managed, I'm deploying somebody to and from the cloud, we're really talking about limiting the on-premises infrastructure and leveraging our Office CDN for Office. We're leveraging the Windows foundations, et cetera, out on the cloud. So if you look at these, it's really all about the user interacting with their device, the device understanding how do I need to go to the cloud, where do I go? So if I look at the cloud managed scenario in an Office ProPlus, really you still leverage the Office deployment tool really to configure it. So you have configuration XML files that you can put down on the machines. What that'll do is that tells the client where do I go get my bits from, right? So think of it as where's my location I'm storing these bits at. Ideally, in the long term, we'd love to have all customers going to our CDN. We've invested in it. It's replicated across the globe. So what we're trying to do is really limit that infrastructure footprint that the IT admins all have to manage. Why do you have to manage and update all my file shares? Why do I need to manage and update all my distribution points? Why should we should be moving you in to be, how do I provide services to the rest of my business? How do I make HR more successful? How do I make IT or your finance department more successful? Focus on those things. Focus on how do I do service management for my organization. Allow Microsoft to actually do the infrastructure core. So it's a change in the way that we think about how do I as an IT admin add value in my organization. What we're doing from a cloud deployment perspective is really allowing you to go, I'm going to configure it once. I just say, okay, I configure it on the client. Client kicks off. It says, okay, where am I going? Great. I go to the CDN. Whenever an update is available, I can download that. As an IT admin, you can actually administer and manage that. You can say, okay, I don't want to go beyond build 1709. I'll wait until the next build is out. So let's say 1801. I want to wait for that. You can actually configure your device to say don't go above this and then move forward. So there's examples out there on the web. We wanted to kind of touch on them in here just to show the value of being able to use the cloud for that type of distribution model. It really limits the amount of administration overhead that you have. We're starting to see customers use this more and more. What we see is they use one scenario and then they kind of start expanding as they see different areas in their environment. Windows also has the online mode, which Daniel was talking about as well. So,
yeah, let me just add for the autopilot story that Surface devices are already supported to use the feature that when you order a Surface device, you can directly import the information into your Microsoft Store for Business environment, right? I think it was announced 2 days ago that 4 of the major hardware providers will adapt this same process over the next 6 to 12 months. So what this process enables is someone, and I especially say someone, can order a device, and the information about the device gets provisioned into your Microsoft Store for Business environment. And from there on, the device can directly send to the user. The user can unbox it and go forward with this. I especially said someone because why should the IT department or why should someone else order the device? Why shouldn't the user himself order the device, right? So all of these new functionalities enable that more of an experience like that is, I would say, to a fair bit influenced by consumerization of IT. So I can order a device, it gets sent to me, I can enroll it, and no one needs to be involved, right? So this is kind of like one of the possibilities that you can build out of these products. So you can build a custom solution with that. And enables your users with a little bit of more freedom of what they're doing, but according to your policies of how doing it, right? So yeah, that was the autopilot story.
Yeah, so now if we look at that cloud managed scenario, so we're talking deployment where admin configures it and then the client goes out and pulls down from the CDN. One of the things that you can now do now that you're using that cloud managed is how do I get updates, right? So one of the things that's nice about both Windows and Office, it's a very similar story now. So as Microsoft releases a new update gets published to the cloud, depending on how you have your clients configured. Let's assume, just for the sake of this conversation, you say, hey, as soon as an update hits my channel, I'll take that update. So what the client will do, client checks in. So you'll notice in this is a user. There's not an admin on this page as I'm doing updates. Obviously, admins will want to kind of administer and how do I manage updates. But as a user's just working on their client device. The client actually looks up to the web, up to our CDN and says, oh, I see an update. There's a bigger version. It's fairly simplistic. It looks at it and goes, here's my number. Am I allowed to go above this build number set from the configuration file? If I can, great, there's a bigger one out here. I'm going to install that. That is no longer, I have to install 15 KB articles. I need to go through and just do all of these things in series. Now it's an update. The applications are smart enough to say, what do I have? I look at the CDN. That new build is out there. It does a delta between what I have on my client today. It does a delta replication to limit that download, and then starts installing based on that delta application. You've got a shutdown. It comes back up, and you're right back where you were. So it saves state. User hasn't lost any of their information within. I'm working within Word. I've got that back. So what we're now allowing our admins to do is not have to do as much management. I can go now to the reports within the portal, see where my client base is. Do I have too many versions that are old? I can administer those and then start taking proactive action on looking at the people that may not be updated versus trying to, how do I get them down to the client? How do I reset my client device so that I can actually reach it? How do I download, or how do I distribute this and push this down? We're allowing the client to do that work through just a normal process, which doesn't involve an IT admin. So there's a lot of scenarios where this actually makes sense. We'll kind of tie that together after we walk through the next managed scenario. So Windows also has that same capability from a Windows perspective. Kind of, Daniel, if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So in Windows, we have the Windows Update for Business feature, which is primarily meant to not using WSUS or Configuration Manager anymore. So it follows the same philosophy that Office does with the CDN. So you configure the policies, and then the client device gets the updates directly from Windows Update, right? So you have comprehensive controls about how the device gets the update. You actually don't approve update by update, right? That's probably one of the main differences. So you configure Windows Update for Business either through the mobile device management channel, so with Intune, for instance. You can also use group policy to do that. So typically what we see customers do is, if you think about the stack of services that you provide to your device, so software update management, software distribution, operating system distribution, taking one of those services, in that case it's software update management, and lose your on-premise footprint and move the management capability to the cloud, right? So use Windows Update for Business as tool to control how to install updates, right? So you can configure settings like how to, the deferral of updates, right? So do you want to defer updates? You can configure, do you want to use this Windows Update? Do you want to use Microsoft Update? So you want to use the mechanism to update other Microsoft products as well. So all of these capabilities enable you to actually control the update behavior on the client, right? But WSUS and Config Manager, they do more than that. There's a question.
My question is, in Config Manager, in the client settings, you can also set the update for business. Does this mean that the clients won't go to the Windows or the software updates from SCCM, but straight through the internet and get their updates there? So it's ignoring SCCM then?
Yes, absolutely. That's the purpose of that setting.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question. So in general, when you think about what SCCM and what WSUS, what they're doing is delivering updates. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is providing insights and providing a dashboard where you can actually view the status and the compliance of your devices, right? So in the cloud world, we have Windows Analytics Update Compliance, right? It's based on the Windows Analytics portal, which is part of OMS. And what enables you, what the Windows Analytics Update Compliance portal enables you is to get a very tight overview about all of your devices, about the update status, if updates are missing, and this is valid for Windows updates, and this is also valid for Windows Defender antivirus signature updates.
Yeah, so I hope takeaway really on that is there are a lot of capabilities in our cloud managed scenarios, so don't immediately dismiss those because there are scenarios that those fit with. The other side that we really want to touch on here is you do still have this enterprise managed concept. So we know our customers are continuing to invest in configuration manager infrastructure. We're continuing to make improvements on configuration manager, really to manage around these cloud-based or service-based solutions. So if we look at the enterprise managed deployment from an Office perspective, they're very similar to what we would do today, and in Windows we can do the same thing. You can, as an administrator, say, I'm going to administer my environment using configuration manager. Okay, that's great. You're still going out, you're downloading the bits from the CDN, so you're still interacting with the CDN, you're storing those down and you're putting them on your own infrastructure and then distributing them out into your distribution points. There's a lot of scenarios that this still helps with, a lot of low bandwidth areas where IT admins and IT infrastructure has been built out to actually support those so that I can trickle bits down to those DPs, et cetera. So what we're still allowed to do is still do that. You can still download those bits, you can still package them up, you can put them in task sequences, you can do other things like I want to add an add-in or I want to remove an add-in at the same time as I install. Another example is I can use scripts to actually uninstall and get a clean install base so that then I can now push down my Office applications and then add add-ins afterwards. So you can still do all that work with the click-to-run product and the new modern clients. Some customers were surprised that you could do that. They hear click-to-run and they're like, it's the internet base and I can't do that anymore. We have the capability to do that. You still do very similar to what you do today. You download those, configure those, and then put them down on the client. Your thing to keep in mind in that scenario is you're just changing where is my source location. So making sure that you have the right source files, et cetera, in that location. and you can do that same exact capability. You can still do the same capabilities that you've had within Windows as well through Configuration Manager, and kind of touch on just the high level points on that as well.
So for Windows 10 and Configuration Manager, so who uses Configuration Manager to deploy Windows 10? Good. So you can still do that, and you will still also be able to do that with the next releases, right? So what we see just with Config Manager is the amount of ramping up, and if something fails, troubleshooting it, you have to be very experienced with this, right? So what we would like to do with the enterprise managed deployment space is still offering the capabilities as well as expanding them with the new Windows 10 features. But we always want to highlight to customers that try out the new features that we enable in the cloud and see if they can help you for a specific business unit, for a specific persona in your company to have a better experience, as well as unloading a bit of the work as IT Pro that you have to do when you support IT Pro deployments. Especially this is valid for, if you think about all of the computers that you need to deploy with SCCM, for traveling users, what do you do when their machine, if you have a break and fix scenario, right? So there are like a lot of scenarios where an on-premise environment is not the best scenario for supporting users that are traveling and users that are mobile, right? So our recommendation is check out the new cloud-based features and try them out and adapt them for personas where it makes sense.
I think there's a question here.
Just a quick question. Just wondering what the plans are for Deployment Toolkit. We have a disconnected scenario where we don't have a lot of infrastructure, and we like the logic that it gives us for image distribution.
I don't know that much about the future. There is a supported release out there. I'm pretty sure there will be a new version coming out. I don't know if it's going to be this year or so later this year or next year. But the integration and the capabilities that you get if you take MDT and you include it with Config Manager, you have the integration. You basically have the whole toolbox of all of your tools available that you probably don't need in every case, right? So, but you can come down to the booth. We're in the expo hall, and we can, exchange information and try to work out the scenario that you're struggling with where the disconnection is. Okay.
Yeah, so if we look at that, it kind of just expanding on that. Now, what do I do with updates? So we have updates coming out twice a year. Now, how do I manage these? You can still manage these in the same way as well. So it's still a matter of, in an Office ProPlus world, the concern was always, well, I don't want my users to go out to the internet. I've got security reasons why I'm not comfortable with that. And it's like, okay, that's great. What you can do is, in that scenario, as things are released, you can download those packages, you can put out an update package, and then you can start targeting those out. So you still have that capability to be very targeted, leverage Configuration Manager, other software distributions, and start targeting those down to the end users. There's a lot of scenarios where that works well, keeping through how do I want to structure that. There's also the cloud option as well. So just because I did one scenario doesn't mean I can't use the other one for updating, but you still have that capability to download. The big keys around managing that, there's some things that you need to take into consideration for sure if you're updating from your Configuration Manager. A lot of it has to do with language packs. Language packs comes up all the time, so I'll kind of touch on it in here. When you look at that, most customers have, let's say, 10, 15 language packs they support. Some are lower, trying to get it down. The biggest challenge in this that you need to keep in mind as you're moving to an update model with SCCM is whatever language packs are supported in your environment, you will have to have in that package that you download available. So think of it as when I have a client down that has English and let's say Spanish or German, I install those. If I didn't have that in my SCCM update package and I go and trigger that, because those language packs aren't in your core Configuration Manager update package, the update would actually fail. So when you go to configure that update, you need to make sure that whatever bits that are in my environment that are on users' desktops, around language packs, all the Office applications, those need to be in a source. So don't think of it as just because user 1, 2, and 3 have English only, user 4 and 5 have Spanish. It doesn't mean I need the English package and then I need another one with a Spanish. You can actually distribute the entire package with English, Spanish, German, you name it, with the language pack, as long as the source files are out there in that location the client is looking at, you'll be able to install and be able to update. The challenge there is that it'll grab only the bits that it needs. So when you distribute this across your infrastructure, you're distributing it to your DPs, not to all the clients. The client is smart enough to know, when I look at a DP, that's my source location, this is what I need, so I'm going to trickle those bits down. So really your infrastructure planning is around getting the package out to your DPs, and the client will do the trickle down around that. You can also manage your updates with WSUS, et cetera, as you have historically done with Office. Another thing from an Office perspective that is a little bit, you'll notice in your environment, we do leverage WSUS. You can go in and look at your updates in Office. You can pick the updates that you want. You can pick the updates that you want to package through the configuration manager. What it'll do is it'll actually download those bits from the CDN down to your SCCM environment. There's been other sessions that have kind of talked about this over in the last Ignite over the last year or two. It's been a feature that's been out there. I just wanted to kind of point it out to know we still do pull those from the CDN, just so that you're aware.
So I think the one thing that I would add for the enterprise managed update is what we see customers do, and they did it in the past, and it was recommended in the past to do so, was providing infrastructure in your DMZ or demilitarized zone that separates your on-premises or like internal network from your external network. Customers provided infrastructure to update Windows clients that were traveling, that were mobile, right? So what we try to get customer understanding now is don't invest your own time and infrastructure into a service that you can get from us as part of your Windows 10 capabilities, right? So instead of putting a management point and a software update point into your DMZ and operating these machines and operating systems, patching them, right? Think about adopting the Windows Update for Business scenario, right? Only that single piece, right? You can still use the software distribution and all of the other capabilities when it comes to enterprise updates, but just this one point, right? That alone would help you reduce the footprint and save costs immediately.
So we'll kind of go into when should I use these. So we've touched on two of the key activities. There was a third one that we have documented that's not out there, and it really goes around kind of third party, right? So there's kind of this locally managed or file share distribution. But one of the things that's really a key takeaway in what we're learning from customers is when we've worked with them over the last 2 years, initially the IT department has gone out and said, I need enterprise managed, I can't do this internet thing. So what they were doing is they were doing the enterprise managed. They were saying, okay, I'm going to use my configuration manager. I'm going to actually package all these applications, or the ProPlus application, Windows, et cetera. I'm going to actually load those down to the desktop. Now, what they were seeing is now an update comes out. Update number 1 comes out, they go through, they package it, they make sure it's available, they distribute it out to their DPs, and then the clients go and update. Then update 2 came out and they go, okay, I need a package again, I need to manage that package, I need to now move that out to my DPs. When the third one came out, they go, okay, I'm doing this quite often. As you see our release cadence, Office used to be 3 times a year, we're moving to 2 times a year because that's some of the feedback is it's too fast. What we've actually noticed though is sitting down and working with customers go, well, why do you keep packaging it? Have you actually thought about just using this content delivery network and CDN? So what happened is you have update 1 comes out, I manage it, 2 comes out, 3 comes out, they start packaging and they go, Brian, what can I do? And I go, well, you can use a CDN, here's how it would work. So we targeted off a subset of those customers. or the end users, and actually just start manage them on the content delivery network. So allowing them just to go out to the internet. The interesting thing is they still packaged that third update, and this happened with 5 fairly large customers. One of them is about 300,000 seats, so it's significantly large. They looked at it and go, okay, well, you know what we're going to do for package 4? We're just going to change it, and I'm going to say go to the content delivery network. So what happened is now they say, I'm just going to let Microsoft manage it. So the update comes out, they just allowed it to update from the internet, and that was a year ago, and they're still doing that today, because what it did is it freed up their IT administration staff and their configuration manager staff to focus on other things. So we're seeing a transition of, I want to keep my stuff how I'm doing it today, and I really want control, to, you know what, I'm actually starting to gain trust in Microsoft's update mechanism, so it allows them to move to more value-added services, allows them to focus your resources on other activities instead of just managing package updates. So we're seeing that trend happen. The other thing that's a key takeaway is, don't think because I picked one solution over the other that I can't mix and match. Another really good scenario is we have a customer, they're significant, they have a large remote base, sales force, consulting force, and what they're doing is they're managing their internal users using Configuration Manager because they want to keep some of the reporting capabilities that are there. They don't want to go and build out internet-facing DPs, right? So what they're doing is they're going, anybody that's in a remote, I'm just allowing them, if they have a remote type job, go out to the CDN. You're in a hotel anyway, you're on the road, you can use your home internet. We're allowing you to go up to the CDN and update from there. So the big key is you don't always have to have all your environment in the same scenario. You can actually mix and match these based on the scenario, based on what the capabilities are and the tools, and based on the population that you're trying to administer. So it's kind of a counterintuitive with a lot of our customers that I can use some from the internet and I can use some from a management. So those are the types of scenarios. So if we really look at, you know, the cloud managed scenario, it's a simpler, right? There's not as much administration. I don't have to do packaging. I don't have to do configuration manager packaging. I don't have to do that work all the time. It simplifies that process for you and allows you to just let the client, the Office client, go and look for updates. It'll also simplify a lot of the bandwidth concerns, or how do I get my remote employees to actually hit my infrastructure? You can actually point them to the CDN because the likelihood that when they're traveling they have internet connection is pretty high. When we have enterprise managed scenarios, that's more the controlled group, right? It's your controlled people that I still want to manage, I still want to target in a specific way using my configuration manager infrastructure. I've invested in it, I have small locations that don't have very much bandwidth. I need to trickle bits down to those remote locations. You can do that just as well with the new bits. Manage those environments where you have the capability to trickle things down over time, and target that just to limit the bandwidth impact. We've already invested in that from a configuration manager perspective, so continue to use that. Whereas my other locations that are harder for me to manage with configuration manager, I can move off to a cloud-based type management. So it doesn't mean that you have to use one or the other for my entire population. So we'll kind of cover over into more of a servicing model. So has everybody here, oh, yep, sorry, I didn't see you.
So is there a mechanism in there with SCCM, we have an infrastructure on-premise managing that sort of stuff. Is there a mechanism to say, okay, pull Office, the majority of it from the CDN, but things like a transform or some customization local from a distribution point, so you can mix and match that?
In the current product, that's not there. So one of the things that we're looking into is kind of the fallback. If I can't reach it, I can go to the internet, but there's not a capability to split those right now.
Thank you.
Yep. And just make sure there's not another. Okay. So people are aware, how many people are aware that we're moving into a kind of a line servicing model 2 times a year? So hopefully, good, hopefully most. So I won't spend as much time on this then as I kind of wanted to. What I do want to point out is we are trying to align the Windows and Office cadence. So we've heard a ton of feedback that, hey, Microsoft, you have this Office thing 3 times a year. You have Windows that's kind of 2 times a year. What do we do? Your support policies in one are 18 months, yours and the other one is 12 months. Why is this the case? I get asked that all the time. We are working through the, releasing our applications twice a year, or the Windows and Office twice a year. We're aligning the support models to be an 18-month from the point of the initial release out until it's no longer supported. So what you'll start seeing is us aligning and releasing in the same time frames. So I'll kind of go more to this slide that'll kind of depict the 2 different models here. But what we show here is you've got the March and September time frame as you're releasing out our Windows product. And then below that in line, you see us releasing in March and September our Office semi-annual targeted channel. So you'll start seeing those aligning where our engineering teams are working very hard to get those to align as closely as possible as we can, so that we can actually make it easier for our customers that are administering both Office and Windows in that update cadence. We don't want you to have to update 5 different times a year because Office is doing it 3 times, Windows is doing it twice. So merging those 2 timelines together so that it allows our IT admins, our customers, to actually see feature increases at the same frequency on both of the products, continuing to be modern. We still have within the Office space, we'll still have that monthly channel. You'll notice in the release this month, so 1709, you'll notice that Office actually just released in our what was called FRDC, or First Release Deferred. You'll actually see the name change starting to hit, right? You'll see semi-annual targeted as the release name instead of FRDC. XMLs will be changing and the values will be targeted instead of FRDC. So you'll see that in the new September release. When you see that think of your deferred channel or DC users, you'll start seeing that in the January release starting to show that semi-annual channel. So what we're doing to align those, really allowing you to do these methodologies where you can do what we call the ring architecture, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, but managing subsets of users, LOB applications at a certain point in time early so that I can validate these before they actually go out into the environment. So a couple points I know we want to make on Windows and Office. The key takeaways from this message is we're moving to a twice-a-year release model for both products, and we're moving to aligning that 18-month support cycle. So if you only remember one thing about this from Ignite, that's kind of the thing from a service alignment: 2 releases in an 18-month cycle. So we're aligning release cadences and we're aligning our support stance. Do you want to add anything for Windows?
Yeah, just 2 very short points. In terms of when we release a new feature update, it is recommended to start deploying it right away to one of your groups that could be like pilot users or user champions, right? You shouldn't wait until a specific date is hit or a couple months have passed, right? You should start deploying it right away. So that is takeaway 1. The second takeaway is we also recommend that you have a couple of PCs as part of the Insider Preview. So there is a booth down there in the Expo Hall that is the Insider Preview for Business. It's a new capability that we offer especially for commercial customers and public sector customers. And what that allows you is to control that a certain group of your users gets Insider Preview builds with new features before they're actually built into the official release products. So that helps you to investigate and to know more about new features that are coming out and to plan accordingly when it comes to compatibility and to new features and the impact that it has on your users, like adoption and training.
Yep. Thanks, Daniel. So a kind of where Daniel was leading to is really what's the best practice. So we've kind of talked about the distribution mechanisms, and now we're kind of focusing more on that service model. What is a service model, and how do I use that service model within my environment? And from a best practices perspective, we've kind of come up with this deployment rings. This is a recommendation. A lot of our customers are using it. Is anybody familiar with this or anybody using it currently today? So it looks like there's a small percentage of people in the room. As we've documented this out and started giving our customers kind of the preferred practice or best practice around this, it's really identifying different rings. So you have your pilot and validation ring of users. What that consists of is like your testers in an organization, your IT department. It can consist of development. The key is it should include user champions within HR, within finance, within underwriting or something like that. If you're in the insurance industry, it's really to try to break across the organization, because your users are the ones that know how the app works, knows how the data is supposed to be consumed and used. So they are going to be more valuable to you on whether this is going to break their environment than IT. I came, IT 15 years ago, I was a UAT tester for a BUIT in IT, so I knew the code. I could read the code and go, yep, that's going to work great. And then it goes out to the user, and it goes, well, it doesn't connect. It brings the data back, and it messes my data up. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I didn't have access to that, so sorry about that. What we don't want to do is have those types of scenarios. So having that user group and user champion group is very important. Putting those on your semi-annual targeted, and when you look at a Windows perspective, putting them on that Windows platform right away. Putting them on there so they can test it. As you get into that semi-annual release in the January timeframe for Office, for example, now you know when I deliver that at a broad scale, I know that's going to work for the rest of my users. So thinking of it as a process where I've always got these set of users that are my user champions on the earliest versions of it. They have a fast track channel back into my IT organization to identify, is it a problem in my app? Is it a problem with Office that I need to engage Microsoft? And then allowing you to actually streamline back out into, how do I make this into my broad deployment? So it's just a mechanism that you use. It turns it more into a process versus a project. So we'll kind of touch on that concept on the next slide, but just knowing that you have that capability around using those first release channels, then using your broad release channels for your end users. So making sure that you have those groups distinguished and separated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's move on to the next slide.
Yep. So I'll let Daniel kind of talk through what needs to change in an environment to make that happen.
So Brian already talked about moving from a project to a process. So that is kind of like the paradigm shift that we would like to go through with customers, right? Because that's also kind of like the same shift that we're going with as Microsoft as well, right? So usually we release Windows and Office like every other year. Now we're releasing it every 6 months. So what we would like ask you to think about is moving to a model where you don't assemble a team as part of a project every other year and then all of these experts come together. What we would rather ask you to think about is assemble teams that continuously are responsible and accountable for certain actions when it comes to keeping Windows and Office up to date, right? So the basic approach is taking the ring model that Brian just showed, so with the pilot and validate and broad deployment, taking that and expand it with plan and develop, which is in Office probably mostly aligned to the monthly channel. In the Windows world, it's probably mostly aligned to the Windows Insider Preview. So having people dedicated to investigate what changes are upcoming before they actually get released. So getting kind of like an understanding what is coming helps you plan for the future. And then there may be new features coming, right? So we can pilot and validate in broad deployment just to validate the compatibility for existing features. But when it comes to implementing new features, it may have an impact on existing infrastructure. It may have an impact on processes. And even more important, it may have an impact on the people, right, on your users. So you need to plan accordingly for providing the right level of documentation, the right level of user training. You need to get your help desk aware that there's a new feature coming. So basically viewing this as a process that always repeats itself helps understanding how the service model of Windows and Office moves forward. So let's move over to application compatibility. So application compatibility in Windows 10 is better than it was ever before in any Windows version, right? So most of you have upgraded to Windows 10, and I hope a lot of you upgraded to Windows 10 with in-place upgrade. So what we did with Windows 10 was reusing a lot of the APIs, the Win32 APIs. So we had a very, very high number of compatibility from previous Windows versions, no matter if it was Windows 7, 8, or 8.1, right? So let's take a look into the tool that actually enables you to get insights into the move to Windows 10, but also the move between Windows 10 versions. So who have you heard about Windows Analytics Upgrade Readiness? There are a couple of folks. There's also a booth down there in the expo hall on the Modern Workplace that is concerned about Windows Analytics Upgrade Readiness. I can just recommend you going down there, talk to these folks down there, ask them questions, get a little bit of insight. Good news first, this tool is free. So what you have to do if you're on Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1 is enable a specific patch on your system so that the client computer sends telemetry to the Windows Upgrade service. And on Windows 10, you can do the same thing. So what it then enables you is you have a portal, and what we always recommend customers is don't treat each of your applications the same, right? You probably have the top 3, 4, 5% of your applications that are really critical and that help you to run your business. And then you have a fairly large number of applications that are important but not that important. And then you also probably have a number of applications that are nice to have, people use it, but they're not that important at all. So our recommendation is check out Windows Analytics Upgrade Readiness. It gives you very detailed insights about what is going on in your environment. It helps you assessing which of my devices are ready to move on to the next version, and you can get it for free.
Yeah, so from a from an Office perspective, I saw a lot of hands on how many folks were deploying ProPlus. How many folks have either tested the telemetry dashboard or used the telemetry capabilities with an Office 365 ProPlus for app compatibility? So some. So one of what we have within Office, it was just released on Friday. So we've got the Office telemetry piece today, or that's been out for quite some time, that you can install an agent on the client machine. As applications are opened, you can see the add-in reports, you can see the macro reports, etc. One of the things that we actually just released is updates to this to actually show you what are the unique things in my environment. Also, we have from all the telemetry that if they get sent up to Microsoft, we're able to collect add-ins that have crash, or we have known good, known bad. So what we've done is we've actually taken all of that data and feedback as we've gotten it, and now we're providing it back to other customers to consume. So we now have lists of these add-ins we know work, these add-ins we probably need to remediate, or these ones we don't know anything about yet. But we're getting that data, and what we're doing is we're now providing that back to customers to say, here's the add-in space, here's the macro space. So we kind of touch on it real lightly here just to show here's what's being released or what's been released on Friday. If I go in here, you've got the add-in readiness report, which will show you here's the add-ins that I have in my environment or that are scanned that I know are in my environment, and it'll cross-reference to our information that we have as Microsoft of these are known good because we've seen it installed and we know it works. These are known that you need to work with your third-party vendor because we know that these are actually not working. And so it allows us to actually give data back to you. So you have the option to send your data back to Microsoft. You have the option to keep it on your own premises as well. Totally fine whichever one you do, but what we do with that data is try to help correlate all that data back to say, here's what we're seeing across the environment. So I think this is something definitely to take a look at. It's brand new out there. You can see kind of the reports. We also have the VBA readiness. So what it'll do is it'll go, here's the macros that I have in my environment. Here's what we know about them, and here's the known good. What you'll see over time by using these readiness reports is as updates start becoming available to you, as an IT admin, I can go in there and go, oh, I have an update coming. Do I have VBA added, or do I have VBA macros, et cetera, that I always know, or I know that are now flagged yellow because I should worry about them, or I should investigate them before I roll this out? Or do I have any add-ins that might be challenged? You'll have that access now based on these reports. So I highly recommend going out and looking at these and kind of seeing where these are at and kind of play with them. Question, I think.
Do these agents run for previous versions of Office as well? So let's see about bringing them up.
Yeah, so there is an agent. So if you look at the agent collection on the telemetry work, we do have agents for older versions of Office. The challenge is that when you look at older versions of Office, they don't have the same data metrics. So you can see, here's the number of macro that I have in my environment, but you may not get crash reports, right? Depending on what version of Office. So as you get from 13, click to run 13, click to run 16, worlds, you get a lot more data. So there are agents for the old Office, and they help you in some ways, but you just don't get as much data. Did I see another person? Sorry, the lights are pretty bright if I get back. Okay. So we'll touch on security really fast. It's more of a plug to kind of talk through and point you to other sessions, but I'll turn the security piece over to Daniel here.
Yeah, so when it comes to security, what we would like you to take away and to think about is we have the term of the secure modern enterprise. And typically security from the definition of Microsoft is consisting of 4 different domains. So we have the identity, apps and data, infrastructure and devices, right? Being secure nowadays is a challenge, right? So we have all of these evolving threats, and it is hard for any company to keep up with these threats, right? So the concept of the secure modern enterprise is combining the 4 domains, right? So the Microsoft stack helps you integrate capabilities that solve across the 4 domains. For instance, Windows is often mistaken to play in the devices domain, but Windows actually has capabilities in all 4 of them, right? So we have Windows Hello, and Windows Hello for Business, probably more an identity feature. We have Windows Information Protection. It's probably more in the apps and data stuff, right? So there are a lot of capabilities alone in Windows that are across these 4 domains. What I would like to ask you to think about is come down to our booth, talk about security, talk about the concerns that you have, and we try to help you find the right persons you can speak to, right? So from a general guidance perspective, here's customers is you should not think about just a big picture. No, otherwise, you should not think about 4 separate pictures for these 4 domains. You should think about a big picture that combines these 4 things, right? So typically, implementing a product that is responsible for identity and then one for apps and data and so on, then you typically have a disconnect, right? So typically, there may be some gaps that attackers can exploit. So let's view real quick how Windows 10 is lighted up in terms of security. So we want to distinguish between 2 different capabilities. One are the out-of-box protection features, and one are the increased protection features. So each Windows 10 device is protected out of the box with the out-of-box protection features. That means that consumers, as well as small businesses that don't have the capabilities to provide IT management to their devices, they already get a secure experience, right? So what we then want to do, and what we want to enable all customers that want to provide an additional layer of protection, is we have the increased protection features, right? So all of these features that you see here, they come with the Microsoft 365 powered device, right? We have fairly new capabilities in here, like Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. We have very proven technology in here like BitLocker encryption. So what I would ask you to do is come down to the expo hall. We have experts for security and threat management at our booth and have a conversation with us. So one more thing about staying secure with Microsoft 365. So what we've seen in the past is, think about the orange boxes basically as Windows releases. So we had the Windows Vista release, and we had the Windows 7 release, the Windows 8 release, the Windows 8.1 release. So with each of the releases, there was a protection gap because there was a fair bit of time between a new Windows release, right? So how does Windows as a service and the new servicing model that is aligned with Office, how does it help you being more secure and getting a better protection? Because we close the gap between when we release a version and we release the next version to 6 months, we are able to respond to threats more frequently.
Okay. So if you look at the Office 365 as a general space, security is, like Daniel was saying, it covers all areas. If you look at the security threat vector on Office 365, you have the same curve. So it's really more of a Microsoft 365 kind of security story. As we start releasing updates over time, you start seeing that gap get smaller and smaller. So secure by design, and this is really a visual to kind of help show what that is. So I think with that, what I'd like to say is please do your evaluations. We're always supposed to say that. And then I'll put up this slide just so folks can see. So these are a lot of the Office 365 sessions that are semi-related around the ProPlus and Office 365. So with that, I want to thank you. We have about 4 minutes, so if there's any questions, please go up to a mic, or if not, we can take questions up here as well. Thank you.
I had a question.
Yep.
In the cloud version, when getting updates, does it transmit it through any bandwidth limiting capability like bits?
We do not currently do that today.
Okay, thanks.
So, but what we do is we have delivery optimization methods.
Yeah.
So there are methods to configure, for instance, through Windows Update for Business, that clients on the same subnet share content like a branch cache. There are comprehensive methods to configure that. There are at least 5 or 6 different options with HTTPS, HTTP over NAT. So if you're concerned about the bandwidth question, check those delivery optimization topics out.
Yeah, and there are capabilities. If you have specific questions in your environment, please do stop by the booth, because we can help you talk through those and look at your specific environment.
Where's the booth again?
The booth is in the expo hall. So it's called Simplicity is where it's at, but it's under a business productivity area.
What's your next one?
What's that?
Okay, right there.
Yeah.
Why is there a Candy Crush in
Like in an hour?
1703?
Yeah, well done.
Mixed reality, Xbox, all the other good stuff. I'm sure my CIO loves that.
I don't have somebody here that can answer that question for you.
Yeah, my question was about Windows Update for business. Are y'all getting any uptake in using that on the traditional side of management?
Yeah, absolutely, especially for customers that are currently invested in internet-based client management, as well as customers that are under cost pressure. So think about industries that have a lot of small offices like insurance or banking industry, and they want to lose their on-premises footprint. So they typically take the software update management capability as first kind of like a guinea pig to try these hybrid model between enterprise managed and cloud managed.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And so we'll be here for 10, 15 minutes. If anybody has any questions, feel free to come down. And thank you all. Have a good time at Ignite.
Thank you, guys.